Okay, so this is a quick story that happened a little while ago, and what made me think about it was last night at 2 o'clock in the morning, my alarm went off, and if any of you have an alarm system, you know that when you're in a dead sleep and your alarm goes off, I don't care who you are, it sort of shocks the crap out of you. But anyway, it turned out it was just a malfunction in the alarm system, and all is well. But it made me think about something that happened a while ago. And I have a pretty advanced security system on my house. I have, the alarms. I also have camera systems. So I have 15 cameras all around my house. And they're all motion activated when I choose them to be. And I have a monitor by my bed. And if something goes off, I could either have it beep, or I could also just have it silent so I'm not woken up all night if a raccoon or something happens to pass by. But anyway, a few months ago, I was sleeping and I heard the beep, beep, beep of the surveillance system. And I look at the monitor and lo and behold, there's literally someone walking in my backyard. Now, I live in a very nice area and it's rural. The houses are not next door to each other. So each one of us, has a couple of acres of property. And, it's just not like there's a property right next to me where someone would kick a ball over a fence and would go in my yard. It's not that type of an area. So I see this happening and the beeping happens and I call my dogs upstairs, and I had two very large trained dogs, and I call them upstairs, which is, I guess, counter to what most people would do. But I call them up the stairs, and I shut my alarm system off while I went to investigate. Now, of course, my wife is telling me I'm crazy and, leave the alarm on, call the police, blah, 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 blah. But that's not what I do. If you're on my property, I want to know what the deal is. So what I did was I went downstairs and I took my Glock 26, which is why I have it here. I happen to have that at my bedside. And I went downstairs and I look in the backyard and there's a person in my backyard. So now all of my doors, even though the alarm is off, once you open them, they make a beeping sound, which is because I have a pool in my backyard. And by code, every door has to have a beep alarm on it. So, if there's children, that the door is open. So what I did was I opened one of the sliders just slightly enough to make the little beep go off. And I left it like an inch open. And I sat at my kitchen table, which faces this slider, with the flashlight and this gun. And I said, let's see what happens here. Now, a bit of a backstory. About a week or two before that, some person called my house and made a threat, and it happened to do with the business that I had, and I won't get into it, but they made a threat, which is total BS. I find that when someone makes a threat, they're total fairies, because don't make a threat, just do what you got to do. Don't give me advance warning, because that's not good for you. But anyway, so I was, a little bit on alert, but not really. So anyway, I sat down at the table, and I had my Glock at the ready, and I just waited. And after 5 minutes, I hear footsteps on my back deck, and it's a wooden deck. And lo and behold, this person opens my door. So at that point, I said, what the hell? And it looked like a slight person. So not like a big guy or anything, but it was definitely a guy. So at that point, I let them open my door, and the guy actually walked into my back area. And there's like a back area that when you come in from the pool, you could towel off before you go into one of the bathrooms. And the guy walked in, and I picked up the gun, and I aimed my flashlight at him, and it was a really good flashlight, and it really scared the crap out of the guy. At that point, I noticed that it was a guy in his young 20s, and I could just tell immediately he was drunk. So with the gun on him, I said to him, what are you doing? Which sort of shocked the crap out of him. And again, the flashlight's blinding him, and he's like, making all kinds of stupid noises. So I realized that really not a high threat level here. And with that, I just made my call, and I had my dogs come down. And again, they're two extremely well-trained Doberman pinchers, and they came down and they sat by me. So I went over to the guy. I'm like, what are you doing? And he goes, isn't this the blah, blah, blah house? So he was looking for a very wealthy neighbor of mine that has these big foam parties in his backyard for his teenagers. And I said, no, this is not the blah, blah, blah house. This is definitely the wrong house for you. And the guy says something like, he actually went to curse, like, oh, fuck, oh, excuse me. He actually, went to curse. And with that, I couldn't help it. I slapped him across the face. Like, I said, wake up, you moron, because he was like, just not being belligerent, but a little bit. I said, do you realize that you're in my house right now? And if I wasn't such a calm individual, you'd be dead right now, and I'd be calling 911 for them to come take your body away. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. And he falls down on my floor and now starts crying. So now I put on all the lights, and my dogs are staring at him like, what kind of moron is this? And I'm like, who are you? And he tells me his name. I'm like, where do you live? And he goes, I live a couple of miles up the road. I'm like, who do you live with? He says, I live with my parents. I says, what's the number? So he gives me his parents' phone number, and I call the parents, and in a minute, the father is over there. And the father looks at his son. He's like, oh, my God, I can't believe this. And then he looks at his face. He goes, what's that on his face? I said, oh, that's my handprint because I slapped your dumbass son in the face. And the father's like, oh, like a little bit like upset. I'm like, well, the alternative is I could have shot your son because he was breaking into my house, and I could have felt threatened and so forth, and that's it. So in my opinion, I sort of did your son and you a favor. So the guy actually agreed. He says, you know what, you're right, I'm really sorry, and this and that. And he goes, I'm going to put him in a program because he's been drinking a lot and all this, and that's it. So with that, he took my he took the son, and they got in the car and they went home. And of course, my wife came down and, she yelled at me. She's like, I can't believe you did that. You're crazy, blah, 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 blah. I said, well, if I was crazy, I would have shot the guy. I said, so, there was just no need for it. So I guess, there's no moral to this story. Like I said, my alarm went off last night, and it made me think of this incident, which, it's funny now, but, I wonder what you guys, would have done. And, at one point, like just with one command, my dogs would have literally tore him to pieces. There would have been no gun or nothing, for me to do whatsoever. The dogs would have taken care of it because that's what they're trained to do. But, so just a quick little story, and I'm glad that, it worked out with just having to give the kid a slap. And, like I said, it turned out he was 23, almost 24. So not a little teenager, he's a man, and, he should know better, than to do something like that. So anyway, just a quick little interesting story. All right. Have a great day.